We have a mix and gather 'em collection of newspapers this morning. I'm going to start with the Examiner here because that's the one that's right in front of me. And so the Examiner's front page is World Party. There you go. That's the World Cup. That's the Aviva Stadium. It's a brilliant Photoshop job. Unless it was actually ever here for visiting for whatever. Who are we playing in that one? The Poles, the Welsh, somebody in a white jersey anyway. Republic set to join bid for 2030 FIFA showpiece. We'll come back to that a little bit later on because I know you both have thoughts on it. Playing GAA can't be a licence for Thuggery is the Jack Anderson column, which is his opinion piece there, which is I think the point that you were making earlier on about the... It's mad how as a sport it becomes the vehicle for expression of Thuggery from thugs. That it's like, if you want to be a thug, Owen was making this point last week on the show, if you want to be a thug, you can do it within the confines of a GAA pitch and you get away with it in a way that if you do the same thing outside the chipper, you don't get away with it. Is this more evident at club level rather than kind of inter-county stuff? Because I haven't seen a huge amount of what I watch on the... Inter-county, you get banned for 6 months. But is there still I see the way the games are refereed now, clearly over the last couple of years. It's dramatically changed the game. I would have thought that's been...
I'm interested in this. Like, so you have to be something of an authority on this because you played for Wimbledon, right? And how are these guys perceived?
Whoa. I'm not sure that link.
Where's the link there? Is it okay to get away with that sort of like aggression on the pitch, but off the pitch you're kind of a decent bloke, like?
Yeah, but aggression, what are you talking about? Obviously,
Vinnie Jones.
Physical contact. Yeah, but what type of aggression are you talking about? I mean, you're talking about clocking somebody off the ball, like...
Mass brawls.
Trying to dig, like...
Yeah, the acceptance...
Digs off the ball. Sledging, like, even that... I think a lot of the talking, like, in the sledging is a lot worse than anything physical, like. You know, bringing up, like, having, like, the
girlfriend's phone number.
Having a girlfriend's phone number, we'll say, in your hand and stuff like that. And a lot worse than that.
Yeah, I don't like that person myself. But at the end of the day, you know, you got to get over there. You can't be taking the bait and things like that. You know what I mean? This is all part of it. I mean, obviously, I'd never get involved in anything like that person myself.
Look at that. You'd never heard anybody. That's your Panini sticker, circa.
Look at Angelic. Should have halo over my head there.
Is that an old Lotto jersey?
Oh, my God.
It is Lotto,
yeah.
I love that jersey.
Kenny, that's class.
You look Italian.
97, 98.
Reminds me of Costa Corta or something like that.
Smartened up. Might have even had a haircut for that photo.
How long were you at Wimbledon?
It's probably my longest at club level, 8 years. Yeah, but obviously John's reference, you were at Wimbledon, so you were mad stuff there, like, but in terms of like how we conducted ourselves on the pitch, I don't think we are any different to any other team in terms of, there was a physical element to the game. You know, we weren't the most easy on the eye in terms of the type of football that we played, but I'd never say there was, certainly when I played, there was never kind of a thuggish element to how we played the game.
It probably eased a bit at that stage.
Yeah, I wasn't like, I was like I've said it before, it was crazy light by the time I got to there in terms of the crazy gang. Different younger players being introduced into the squad. There's still that perception around the football club, but I never saw. But that was English football in general, like 10 years before that. That wasn't just Wimbledon. That was the way the game was played back in the day.
Vinnie Jones
tough. It was a tough game.
Like there's the footage of Vinnie Jones killing Steve McMahon in that, like, is it 6 seconds in and he's getting booked, but he just goes in with the boot high. Yeah,
but that would have been pretty. Man, that was par for the course. Like, I'm talking back even the generation before. You look back at the like kind of 70s, late 70s, and stuff that was going on then, like, you know, mad stuff, like, you know what I mean? I'm not sure if exactly what you were talking about in terms of the guy mass brawls at times. I can understand to a point when it flares up, but if you're talking about kind of off the ball, elbow in the, I mean, that's
the sneaky stuff.
It's awful stuff.
The sneaky stuff where you land with your knees on a player and you know that you could get out of the way, but you don't, and he's done, and you're like, oh, ref, it's an accident. And the referees might be like 15 years removed from playing the game and haven't seen it or experienced it themselves.
Ger, I have to disagree with you. I think that happens, but that, for me, I'd have to be honest here. I was never a physical player. I couldn't physically intimidate anybody. I just wasn't good at it. I didn't get involved in it.
It wasn't your nature, though.
No, well, it wasn't my nature, no. But after spending a period of time in the game, you become immersed in it to a point. You know what I mean? It's a professional game. I remember once we were playing one season, we'd Spurs about 6 times during the year. We got them in a 2-legged semi-final. Ginola was playing at that time. He was a brilliant player, like Ginola. He's playing left wing, I was playing right back. And we were playing at Selhurst Park, won the games. And obviously, at some point during the game, I thought, as you do, this lad's top class.
Speaking of hair now. This is hair, like.
Exactly. But at one point, I remember during the game, there was a throw in. It came to him. We both went up for a header, and we were coming down a little bit like you said there. I could have made a better attempt as I was hitting the ground to kind of roll away to keep away from him. But I thought, well, no, there's an opportunity here, not to cause any serious damage, but put a little bit of weight on him as he hits the ground, wind him, whatever. Just shake him up a bit. So I took it. So he sprawled on the ground, desperately trying to get physios on. So am I proud of it? No, but this is what you do. You know, it's a professional game. Anything to get an edge, slow somebody up.
Yeah. Anything to get an edge, though.
No, not anything. That's what I'm saying. There are parameters there. Like I'd never engage in like, you know, have bum, elbow in the anything like that. Or even in terms of tackling, very rarely I'd go in a manner which I felt that I'd really endanger an opponent. Maybe once or twice in my career I can remember that, seeing the red rag a little bit, but that can happen. But generally speaking,
what caused it? Was it something from them?
No, an opposition player had kind of taken out one of our, we had a young player in the team. This was a more experienced opposition player. He'd taken him out. The opportunity presented itself a few minutes after
Retribution is a different thing.
Yeah, so I did actually get hold of him too. He saw me coming, actually, to be fair, and actually jumped out of the way. But those moments were few and far between. But very easy for me to say, oh, that's outrageous. Yeah, we shouldn't have any time for that in the game. But I can understand it, and I can't honestly say I didn't engage in that.
There's long been too much nonsense in Gaelic games, so that like that off the ball, soft shoulder, and when you know the ball is nowhere near you, like pushing lads, you know, mass brawls fairly common, like, and I think maybe it's reached ahead to a degree.
You hope that there's a weight of events that lead people to have a serious consideration of where we are and what the parameters are, right? Because you're talking about that. You know, leaving something on somebody as you land so that they're winded is different from landing with two knees on their back/face so that you are trying to do as much damage as you possibly can. And it's the intent behind that, where you're hoping that you're taking that player out of the game illegally versus I just want to leave a little bit on him. Because that's the grey area.
I agree with you. I think there is a difference there, and it's finding those muddy lines, I suppose. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't understand, like, the GAA. I understand what you're talking about. I've seen that the Gaelic of late, that kind of shoulder and stuff that goes on off the ball, the camera goes away from the ball, and you see, I always think to myself, why? I mean, surely nobody's been physically intimidated. All these Gaelic players are playing like elite level. They're absolutely focused, great physical specimens.
Strength and conditioning behind them.
Yeah, surely.
They're 17.
But surely nobody's getting the edge over anybody from a psychological point of view in terms of like, bang, have some of that, and they're both at it for a few seconds. You know what I mean? It's a little bit nonsense stuff, really.
Working out testosterone. I think that might just be like I need to do this to work this out.
I remember Maurice Sheridan playing for Mayo years ago, and he was primarily a free taker, but he was a very nice kind of, I'd say he's probably a quiet guy, and he took a free against Leitrim. The free went over, and he came back to his position, and the Leitrim lad just planted him with a shoulder, and I was just like, you're a bloody idiot, like, you know. And I saw that on TV. I'm looking at Maurice Sheridan here. I have a lot more respect for Maurice Sheridan than I have for you, like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know why that stayed in my head, but when I was young, and the first time I encountered lads who were just doing constant stuff off the ball, I was like, you're an asshole. Like,
well, here's the thing. Asshole. Unfortunately, it works. It works, and
it does work. So if
at that level, a younger level, you got real disparity between.
It works at the absolute senior level as well. So Dermot Connolly got sent off against Carlow for remonstrating with a linesman. He was remonstrating with the linesman because there were 5 or 6 Carlow lads hanging out of him and taking a go off him, and he's like, "You have to protect me." But the referee's like, "Are the linesman?" Like, the implication is, it's a man's game. Look after yourself. And he hasn't played an intercounty minute of football meaningfully. Okay, so sorry, the second half of last year's All-Ireland football final.
Meaningful.
Yeah, but didn't start. Best footballer in the country is effectively out of the game largely since because he's not being looked after.
And we're not condoning what he did.
And the Carlow lads, it works.
Yeah.
Like, it worked. And it's worked. You've seen some of the superstars of the game pick up 2 yellows in crappy Munster Championship games because there's lip to the point of, like, okay, I'm sorry, but you can't just keep saying this.
And he's the guy who's vilified,
stuff.
like.
What?
He's the guy, Connolly's vilified, so Connolly's now, like, not even living in Ireland, like. Do you know what I mean?
He's back now, and he's going to be playing club football, and I hope he's back.
It can't be as simple as that, surely.
I'm telling you.
Such an experienced player.
But it's the fallout afterwards. You become this kind of lightning rod for bullshit afterwards. And you've got to put up with that when actually this isn't your job. Like, I think that's the insidious nature of where these little bits of. So recently we saw a photograph of an intercounty footballer after a senior championship match. They haven't made it public, so we can't talk about who it is, but black and blue from being pinched by a range of his opponents.
He's an inter-county footballer.
Like senior championship match this year, late in the season, like a Super 8 match. So that's enough. That's wide enough. Black and blue in a match where like it wasn't
in the Super 8s.
Yeah, it wasn't even close. Like there's no reason for it. And anyway, it didn't have any impact on his performance. But I just think that like it will have an impact on players unless you decide. It's like the tackle from behind in football. Everyone's like, this is taking the manliness out of the game. But now there's no Marco van Basten's retiring in 26 anymore because they've got no ankles. Yeah. Now Messi and Ronaldo last deep into their 30s continuing to entertain us and perform at the highest level because they're fit the whole way through. Because there's
that's a good example of
ankles.
setting those parameters and generally getting them right in terms of the tackle from behind, but at the same time trying to strike the balance between not losing that kind of physical element of the game, which we want to see as well.
Yeah,
so
I actually think
it's not easy to strike that balance.
Football's gone a bit too far.
Yeah, exactly. It's never easy, but.
Just a final point on this, Jordan Murphy, and he got vilified last week for his games gone to PC comments after one of his players got sent off for a high tackle. He's rolled back on those comments and he's basically apologised for them. In the heat of the moment, as a young head coach, no experience of that TV interview situation, I shut my mouth a little bit when I needed to sit back and absorb a few things. It might seem I was taking a head injury lightly, and that's not me in any way, nor is it as a club at Leicester. We're united, we want to be the best with head injuries. So I think he did get hammered for it, and I think when coaches come out and go, made a mistake,
absolutely,
you go, fair play.
Yeah.
And actually, it's a proper teaching moment. And now, he definitely goes up in my estimation anyway, because it's like, I do make mistakes. I'm a human being here. FAI and World Cup 2030 bid, not quite yet, but that's the headline on the back of the Herald this morning. Ireland looking at the prospect of co-hosting the tournament. We might get 2 games. I don't know. Is there a breakdown exactly?
We might even ask England to come on board with us. That's the word in the story.
Yeah, we've got some good gaffes. Time to pay up. Kilkenny hero Fennelly calls for cash boost. 8-time All-Ireland winner Michael Fennelly has called for senior intercounty managers to be paid. He believes players should receive a substantial government grant increase to ensure they stay amateur. It's a tricky situation here where you're trying to navigate, we get grants but we're amateur, because as soon as you get grants you're not amateur.
Yeah, the managers getting paid is probably the biggest elephant in the room in Gaelic games in a long time, and obviously everyone knows it goes on. I'm astounded by the money that club managers are getting as well, from just anecdotally, and the GAA does need to confront this. You know, it's obviously nominally amateur for a long time at this stage. You want to be true to the amateur ethos, and you look at Joe Brawley, the way he writes. I wouldn't agree with Joe on everything he writes or anything, but he does make valid points about like that amateurism is basically, you know, it's going from the game and it's getting very elite, and there's a massive inequality in terms of what the guys for Dublin might be rewarded for, shall we say. And there was actually a guy in the West who was going to play League. He was playing League of Ireland and he changed to Gaelic football in the last year or so, and it was
financial reasons. Pretty
well known in town that what the county board, the relevant county board, was offering him in terms of obviously not throwing money at him, but what it was offering him was basically like a very good offer.
As in a career?
Yeah, and like and a set of wheels.
Okay, right.
You know, and there are like.
There must be a huge amount of sympathy for players from the public generally on this point.
Nobody
can begrudge.
But my problem with it is it's very
amateur. We're all proud of that.
It's massive inequality though. Like, so it's like the guys for Dublin versus the guys for Laois footballers. There's no. But
that will always be the case, Johnny, won't it? Once you go down that road, that'll always be the case.
But it's an amateur sport.
But once you accept the principle of, well, people are going to be paid, then you accept the fact that there's going to be disparity in terms of what people
are being paid.
Nobody expects the principle of getting paid. That's the issue. That's where the...
No, but it looks as if very slowly we're heading down. But my point is, I don't think anybody would begrudge those players, the amount of commitment that
managers have been paid like for a long time. And it's just like...
one form or another,
It's not... So how does the GAA...
But it's accepted. People accept that.
It is accepted. It is accepted.
Revolution on the streets. People accept it. They understand. They probably agree with it in some respects.
Yeah, like I don't personally have an issue with it, but it's like, why not just confront it at this stage? Like, it's all hush hush for so many years now. It's like,
It's come out. It'll come out eventually. Won't it?
Yeah.
Players had nothing to do with Rochford exit. This is Andy Moran saying that they had nothing to do, no influence on the departure of Stephen Rochford as manager. And yesterday it emerged that a couple of different candidates have been confirmed to be in the running for the gig. James Horan is one of them, so it's going to be very interesting to see if Horan actually manages to get that job, because there's definitely unfinished business, and there's a good piece inside from Donncha Boyle. Horan must be alive to the perils of his Mayo second coming. It's difficult to go back somewhere.
Never go back, yeah.
But that's the... Jack O'Connor. Jack O'Connor went back. Declan Bonner's gone back. He's doing really well at the moment with Donegal. JBM went back, beaten in an All-Ireland final after a replay by Clare, having won it once already in '99. John O'Mahony.
But if you think of it logically, it doesn't really stand up, never go back, because it's easy to make the argument that you go back.
More about relationships and management.
Yeah, it's a totally different environment that you're going back into.
I think also, there was just so much emotional involvement, and that Mayo team that he was part of had so much raw emotion. They're a different team now. They're older and they're a bit wiser, and he's a bit different. He'll have had a couple of years of sitting in the analyst booth watching everything going on. This is assuming that he gets it, but I'm delighted for him, because you kind of felt like there was unfinished business there. Yeah,
but you can also look at Rochford. Rochford's done a very good job there, but the Mayo job, because of the nature of the Super 8s, Mayo have an outstanding chance getting the Super 8s every year, so it's a very attractive job in many respects. How far are they off Dublin? You'd have to look at it this year and say they're probably a bit.
Yeah.
But they did blow it in Castlebar against Galway. That was basically the end of their championship.
It didn't help, yeah.
No, and that was, we're talking about Mayo. But Mayo in discipline has cost them, between Vaughan getting sent off, and Mayo should have won the All Ireland if Vaughan had held his cool against John Small that time, and O'Connor getting sent off against Galway basically won the game for Galway.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit there as well.
But that's plenty to work on,
Yeah.
And some of those young players definitely coming through. Men against boys, Pogba inspires United triumph. This is obviously an early edition of the Star. Young Boys 0, Manchester United 3, because the big story obviously last night was City. City are French fried. Man City 1, Lyon 2 was the full-time score in the game last night. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of the Champions League with Kenny in a little bit later on, and a Horan name in Mayo hat there. Lambs 1, Lions 2, Lyon. I mean, if you say Lyon, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Lose the French accent, you're right.
GAA bosses need a wage. That's Mick Fenley. Always interesting stuff. You can hear from Mick on Off the Ball tonight on the radio. 5 Alive for 2030 World Cup bid. Too many people involved in this. We'll get into this a little bit later on. But us, England,
it's 12 years.
Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland. Can we really come together and
Isle of Man,
be friends? Wouldn't it be great if maybe we could get the Isle of Man? They give us the Isle of Man as here, we'll give you the World Cup, you give us the Isle of Man.
It's a little bigger than Qatar.
And the North.
Yeah.
Come on, give us the North.
We'll be united by then anyway.
or Dublin.
Man against boys as Pog hits double. It's man against boys, of course, because, young boys. Took me a second there. Lyon, shock, sloppy City. Silva strike fails to prevent Blues slipping to defeat is the back page on The Guardian.
Lots of empty seats as well, which was interesting at the game. It's strange with Man City fans. They haven't really embraced the
team.
That's one thing. But the Champions League Europe doesn't seem to just get their juices flowing as much.
This is a real worry for me. The result of Manchester City last night. If it was a Manchester City part, I'd be a little bit worried just in terms of their application. I was predominantly watching the Man United game last night. But in terms of the manner of the performance last night, just betrays maybe just a little bit of chink in terms of the mentality of some of those players. And going into a season where a month ago people were as good as handing them the title before the season had even begun.
I don't know about that, though, Kenny. I don't think this year there was with Liverpool. I think there's a big groundswell of opinion that
Liverpool could challenge, but predominantly
City they look fairly vulnerable much of the time, against good opposition.
I think they're as strong as they have been at centre half.
They have the ball most of the time.
But I think generally the argument was prior to the season, Liverpool going to have a go. Maybe Liverpool were the ones to come out, maybe put it up to him. But the general consensus was City will win it anyway, comfortably by the end of the day. Whereas now, a month into the season, off the back of the start Liverpool have made to the season, and then factor in a performance like this from Manchester City, all of a sudden you're looking at it, a brilliant team as they are, you're thinking they can't afford too many days like this, particularly in the Premier League, because Liverpool are looking so strong at the moment. Liverpool are more than capable.
And Liverpool are going to steamroll most teams this season.
Liverpool are the real deal. That's it. Liverpool are here now. Whereas the Liverpool 6 months ago, a year, you're saying, well, 1 or 2 areas of the pitch they need, and not quite where they need to be to challenge. Liverpool are right there now. They're ready.
We'll get into a bit more detail on that in a couple of minutes' time. The front page of the Telegraph, Rugby World Cup, 1 year to go. It is officially the countdown to the Rugby World Cup. Can you take a year's build-up to the Rugby World Cup?
I don't want to. I know you're going to the race poster. I don't want to bring up gambling, but a mate of mine had backed Kew Gardens to win the Ledger months ago, right? And the race was on last Saturday.
Yeah.
And that was grand.
Had you also backed Kew Gardens?
I had. No, that's incidental to this story. But what subsequently transpired is more like something that would happen to me than my mate. But I met him that night, and he'd won like 5 figures on Kew Gardens, right? And he'd given 80% of it back. And one of the bets that let him down, I subsequently found out, was New Zealand to beat South Africa at 25 to 1 on. Oh. 25 to 1 on they were to beat South Africa. Now, I don't really follow rugby, but they let him down in a treble at 25 to 1 on. And it's like, has this opened up the possibility again of Ireland? We had Joe Schmidt, and obviously you didn't mention the war, namely the World Cup, but does this mean like that Ireland have a little chink of hope again?
New Zealand were beaten by South Africa. We're due to face South Africa in the quarterfinals. It also opens up the grand possibility of Ireland once again failing at the quarterfinal stage of the World Cup. That's what
we've got more than a chink.
By the way, you want to see the way he played Joe Schmidt. I was impressed. I have to say, he's famous for saying absolutely nothing. He opened up.
It was good.
He opened up. It was Johnny Murtagh as well. You know,
Johnny Murtagh is a live wire.
He is
great. O'Brien eyes ARC bid for St Leger hero Kew Gardens. Hanlon winner tests positive for cobalt at Galway. We should just talk briefly about this. Trainer Shark Hanlon has been hit with an 18-month suspended sentence of his licence after his Galway Festival winner Camlin tested positive for elevated levels of cobalt. He said he's going to appeal it. He was fined $7,000 in order to pay costs of $2,000 on behalf of the IHRB, the Irish Horse Racing Regulatory Board. He's making the point that the reading was 117. You're supposed to be 100, but there's a margin of error of 14. So he's saying he's only 3 over when you factor that in. At the same time, it's in the system.
It's in the system, yeah. And there was a guy leaving the Racing Post last night, and we all went for dinner. And Richie Forsell was about an hour late because he had to deal with this story, so he wasn't best pleased. But this isn't good for racing, you know. And there's another case mentioned there which involves arsenic being found in a horse. And I mean, I know arsenic from looking at FBI shows where it's like it's a silent, basically, form of murder. It's often like a lot of supposedly natural deaths. I have to be honest, I have no idea what arsenic's in the horse. But Shark Hanlon, I mean, I think we can't talk too much about this because he's appealing, but I would question a second offence involving a suspended sentence when it comes to this.
How is cobalt administered to the horse, do you mind me asking?
Over-the-counter, so he says, here it goes, I was administering 4 over-the-counter supplements and I've noticed that 2 of those have since had the B12 removed. I presume B12 is another code name for cobalt, I'm not sure.
Yeah, cobalt is a big, there's a different way of looking at cobalt in Australia, we'll say, compared to in Ireland. There was a famous case last year with the horse who ran in Cheltenham, and the trainer was done, I think, for 3 years. So cobalt occurs naturally in a horse, but larger doses of it will have a positive effect in terms of performance and ability to take performance. But I will always defend, innocently proven guilty and all that. And Shark Hanlon Shark Hanlon's had a very poor year as well, a really poor year. So when a horse like Camlan winning at Galway was a big deal for him, and for this to come up, I do think this is quite damaging for his career. It's the front page of the Racing Post. Don't think it got into many of the other papers.
Yeah, there's definitely a few lines in them.
That's probably a sign of maybe that racing journalism in the papers has become a bit less and less over the years. It didn't come out mad late. It came out at like 7 or 8 o'clock, I think. But it's front of the Racing Post. And in fairness to the Turf Club, now the Irish Horse Racing Regulatory Body, they are putting a lot more effort into cases like this, and I think it's badly needed.
Yeah,
I do. I think they're probably only still scratching the surface in Ireland in terms of drugs and stuff like that. And if managerial payments and players getting reimbursed is the white elephant in the room in Gaelic games, drugs in racing is the white elephant in the room.
All right, we'll move on.